I'm here with Wesley Chun, developer advocate for Google. Wesley, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure, glad to be here.
I want to start right off with the obvious question. How did you get to Google?
Many steps. The journey has come a long way. I studied mathematics as an undergraduate, and then I went to grad school studying computer science. Got my first job at Sun Microsystems, a big, well-known enterprise company back in the day. And then I went to a small little startup called 411, where I ended up being one of the original engineers that built Yahoo Mail 15 years ago. There were only like 9 or 10 of us. After Yahoo acquired us, started a long string of startups that I was at for a whole decade. And then finally, when the economic downturn of 2008 happened, I thought, oh, maybe it's safer to work at a big company again. And so that's kind of how I ended up at Google.
So you've worked as an engineer at both small firms and large firms. Can you tell us a little bit about the differences between those?
It's quite interesting being an engineer at big companies and small companies, because you might think, oh, there's not much difference because I'm coding, right? At a small company, you wear a pretty wide variety of hats. In a large company, you're given a task, or you work on a specific team and you do sort of like one thing and you're good at the one thing. But in a smaller company, you do all kinds of things. You're mostly an engineer, but you're partially sort of a public spokesperson for your product. You're partially a product manager for your product, and you get to know everybody in the company, which is great too. If you were to graduate with an engineering degree, I would probably think that getting the experience under your belt at a large company will help prepare you for working at a startup, because you'll have an idea of what other people do from the large company while you're focusing. And then when you go to a smaller company after that, you'll really feel more comfortable in that environment, that you can actually do more than what you were hired to do.
And your title is developer advocate. So what do you do?
Typically, my titles have always been software engineer or software developer or senior engineer or something like that. Our job is to teach other engineers how to integrate Google technologies into the apps that they build. So we are advocating our technologies to external developers. And because Google is such an engineering-focused company, we're also advocating on behalf of users. So if all of you guys out there are using Google APIs, building apps, and you're discovering problems like, hey, this is not working, or I don't understand how to use this, you can talk to us, and we can be your direct pipeline into the product teams.
So what advice might you have for some of the students in this class who might be interested in working at a company like Google? What should they be doing to prepare for these kinds of jobs?
Engineers are a highly sought after resource, so it's great that you guys have considered engineering. It's to me, it's a form of art. You've got artists that have sculptures, you've got artists that paint, paintings. But when you're crafting a piece of software or building an awesome piece of hardware, this is our way of expressing the art inside all of us. And I think it's a very pure form of building something. Engineering and art, I believe, are very, very similar. But with that said, look around you guys. There's several thousands of you taking the same course. And imagine all the students that came before you, all the students that are coming after you. The problem is there's only a finite number of jobs out there. So really, in order to get at a job at a big company, a well-known company, or working on really fantastic products, you really need to sort of differentiate yourself with your skill set, with your grades, with the projects you work on, with the internships you get. Really differentiate yourself from as many of the other students as possible. The more you stand out, the more you're likely to become attractive to a large company, because I don't know how many thousands and tens of thousands of resumes that our recruiters get at Google, and I don't know how they look through all of them in order to let us see the ones that they want us to phone screen or to do an on-site interview with. But I can't imagine it being a really easy task. Take your skills and build something, have a portfolio of software projects or hardware projects, and just try to make yourself stand out as much as possible. And I think that's a sound piece of advice that I can offer you guys.
What sorts of things do people have that differentiates them? Something like they work well in teams, they are very technically savvy. What are the sorts of things that you're looking for?
Even if you didn't get a summer internship, obviously having one is great and it looks good on your resume. But if you didn't, don't go out there, lounge on a boat and drink beer all summer. Build something, open source it, stick it onto GitHub, have people recognize it, get people excited about it, get people contributing to it. That definitely speaks volumes. Also, solving problems is a really important skill to have. If you do get an interview at Google, they're going to be asking you questions that see what your thought process is. How do you go about solving a problem? You know, you might or might not get the right answer, which is fine. The more important thing is, we're trying to figure out how good you are at solving problems, because guess what? We have those problems every day.
Mm-hmm.
How do you write a search engine and make it available to billions of people around the world and not have the system crash or give you internal server errors or 500s or things like that? How do you solve a really, really difficult problem? Because that is likely to be something that you're going to have to do on the job.
What's one of the coolest problems you've been able to help solve?
Some of you guys use Google Apps in school.
Sure.
And there's a way for teachers to create exams or questions for students, and they usually do that in a Google form. I'm pretty sure you guys have done that. There's a cool grading tool so that once the students have submitted all their answers, there's a cool grading tool that was written by one of my colleagues that helps teachers grade all the students' exams and stuff like that. So that was great. But I thought, well, that's good for teachers to kind of like relieve the burden of grading exams. What about creating exams? Could there be an easier way to let teachers not have to fiddle in the Google Forms editor very much? So I worked on a tool that did just that. You write the exam in a Google Doc, and my tool automatically generate a Google form for the teacher. So now you have a tool that helps teachers create exams and another tool that grades exams, trying to make things easier for teachers. So that's one recent example of something that I've done.
One thing we're wondering about is the life of an engineer and what engineers do. If you were a sort of new engineer to Google, what might your day look like?
So when you're starting out being an engineer, it is true that you may or may not get the most highly sought after projects at work. Sometimes you may think, hey, I'm a brand new grad, I have a lot of energy, I have a lot of talent. Why am I being put on to bug fixing duty? Well, it's not because we're trying to haze a new employee, but it is one of the best ways for you to learn the code base. Once you're familiar with the code base, if another project comes along where you're adding a cool new feature to it, you're already familiar with that code base, and you're able to actually be more effective at that and be more successful instead of having to ask more questions or having the project get delayed. Expect to do a lot of heavy lifting, expect to do a lot of reading, a lot of talking to senior engineers, find a mentor. Actually, if you can, that's a really great thing. But the day-to-day is pretty much go to work, find out what it is that I'm going to be doing, either a scrum meeting in the morning or reviewing your to-do list for the week. Every time you meet a milestone, be sure to communicate that. I know a lot of engineers are kind of quiet, they don't like to say things, but if you did accomplish something, please say so, because it's not that you're showing off, but you need to let people know that you're making progress and that you could be recognized for it. So don't be shy, break out of that shell. Even if it goes against every intuition you have in your body, just fight against that, because the more outgoing you are, it just helps you develop a better relationship you have with your coworkers and with all the people that are around you that will end up delivering your product to the public.
So imagine I'm a new engineer at Google and I'm on the debugging team and I show up for work. Am I going to probably be working by myself most of the day? Will I be working with other people? Am I on a team?
Usually in a smaller company, you're pretty much responsible for something. It's in your world and you're in charge of it. There will probably be a senior engineer that you work with that you're assigned to. At a larger company, there's probably going to be a little bit more collaboration. So you're going to be working with other probably new hires as well too. And all of you guys may have a single mentor to help aggregate the work that you guys are doing. There are times where you're going to be working by yourself, but in other times you're going to be very collaborative. And our company is very, very collaborative.
I see on your resume that you've not only worked at large and small companies, but that you've written many books. So you're an author. Why did you choose to write books?
Oh, that's a really good question. And in fact, for you engineers out there, you may not be the best at writing, and you're probably wondering, I don't even like to document my code, much less, writing a paper or a book. So this was kind of interesting. A little bit of my background was that one of the summer internships that I had, allowed me to not only write code, but I also had to write a getting started manual for users. And that gave me experience not only developing code in industry, but also writing for a very general audience. When I learned Python, which is a programming language that we used to build Yahoo Mail with many years ago, before anybody heard of Python before, I was looking for a good book to learn from, but because the language was so new, the two existing books out there didn't really meet my needs. One was out of date, and the other one was more of a case study book, and not really to teach developers how to code with it. And I was really looking for a book that taught existing programmers who already knew another language like C, C++, Java, how to program in Python and get up to speed as quickly as possible. And it wasn't there, and because I'm an engineer, I had to scratch that itch. So that's how.
So you wrote the book.
Yeah, so I wrote a book. I wouldn't say it's the book, but a lot of people seem to like it. So I'm pretty happy that it's gotten a good review so far.
You've had a very successful career as a software engineer and a senior engineer, and you've written books about all these really interesting programming languages. Can you tell us about a time in your career maybe you weren't successful or failed at something?
Yeah, there have been occasions where you're on a high profile project and you're certain that the software that you built is going to work. You've put it through its testing phases and everything is great, but maybe there was one particular test case that you didn't consider. And of course, that's the one that happens once it goes live. So I ended up redoing it myself, and my solution did work better. Maybe because I tested it more than the other piece of code that I was using. But that was a very strong lesson learned, for sure.
What was your favorite experience as an engineering student?
While you're taking all of your engineering courses, you're going to get attracted to certain subjects over others. And when you get attracted to those, you kind of make a beeline towards it. I love the digital design class that I took. I love the the hardware design, like I said, and the algorithms course I loved as well too. And the operating systems course, the compiler course, I really loved all of those. But when it came to networking, there was something really special about it that attracted me to it. And when I eventually went back to graduate school, I made computer networking part of my graduate work.
What do you wish someone would have told you when you were in college?
I guess even before I got to college, I think it would have been helpful if someone told me what an engineer was, besides someone that drives trains. I thought I was going to be a computer programmer because I had 4 years of it in high school. I wasn't really sure how that progressed in college. I figured there was a computer programming major. I didn't know it was actually computer science. So no one told me that there was a lot of theory behind it. And the theory wasn't that easy. But the theory is important, and you don't realize it until you get older. As you're a high schooler, you're interested in nothing but hacking and building awesome things. But there's something to be said between what is the difference between a programmer and a computer scientist. A computer scientist not only has that theory, but they have the engineering prowess to actually imagine the overall product that's being built, the overall design and architecture of what's being built. And it's not just sitting up all night and hacking something together, because those solutions typically don't have a very long lifetime. I think being told about engineering and what being an engineer was versus just being a programmer, I think that would have been really helpful knowledge for me. Because I think then I would have become an engineering major instead of being a math major as an undergrad or a computer science major in grad school. Yes, they're both engineering flavored, but it would have been more interesting if I had that additional background of knowing exactly what an engineer was and decided whether I should be an engineer or be or major in something that is in the engineering sciences.
One of the central questions of this class is actually, what is an engineer? How do you answer that question, Wesley? What is an engineer?
Yeah, so an engineer is someone whose job it is to solve problems or to solve a problem that hasn't been solved before. It's not just how you get there. It's everything about it. It's thinking about the problem set in a deeper way. It's thinking about architecting solutions in the right way, and then it's also producing the results. I used to think it was just producing the results and not any of the other things.
Process.
So I think I would have been a bad engineer if I didn't get this extra training. So I'm thankful that I did. Yeah, really engineering is a very complete discipline. And what I mean by that is you have to think of all the pieces not only related to your area of expertise, but think of things that you need to do that are not necessarily your area of expertise or that you're not focusing on. Because if you're one-dimensional, you're probably not going to be as effective of an engineer as you could be if you had thought about everything else.
What do you do for fun?
Well, I've got kids right now, so that part is easy. Taking them to the park, going to the playground, playing with them. Some people may call me a nerd, but sometimes I like to write little tools that solve little problems, even if they're not related directly to my day job. I like to teach outside of work. I have over 30 years of teaching experience, actually. I like to do physical fitness, so basketball, bowling, yoga, bicycling, running, lots of different things. And I also play piano. Mostly play for my kids now, but I was a music minor as an undergrad. It was a great stress reliever from engineering all the time. I felt it was a good way to kind of like become well-rounded, and I've been playing piano since 1972 anyway, so I felt that if I wanted to be a piano teacher later on, that'd be good to have some sort of degree, so that's why I minored in music.
Wesley, thank you so much for talking with us today.
All right, thanks for having me.